Hi, I'm Tim V. Tran, CEO and founder of the Ivy Group. We specialize in commercial brokerage, buy, sell, and lease in Fremont, Silicon Valley, and the greater San Francisco Bay Area. Today, we're going to talk about the significant changes to real estate buyer-broker agreement in 2025 California legislation AB 2992. New disclosures requirements went into law in 2025 regarding real estate buyer-broker agreements for all real estate property transactions in California to provide better transparency for clients. Introductions and highlights. California's recent legislation, AB 2992, has made significant changes to the relationship between real estate brokers and buyers, including tenants and lessees. It went into effect on January 1st, 2025. AB 2992 includes the following changes. Number one, requires a written buyer-broker agreement to be signed before making an offer on real property. Buyer includes tenant, lessee. Number two, applies to all types of real property, including commercial, residential, and land. Number three, applies to the sale of real property and to leases exceeding 1 year. Number four, the buyer-broker agreement can last no more than 3 months with no automatic renewals unless the buyer is a corporation, LLC, or partnership. Number five, the buyer-broker agreement must state A, the compensation to be paid to the broker, B, the services to be provided, C, when payment is due, D, when termination occurs. Number six, failure to comply with the requirements above renders the agreement void and may subject the broker to disciplinary action. AB 2992 makes other changes to the broker-buyer relationship, including required disclosures for buyer's agents, seller's agents, and dual agents. Clients should talk to their real estate brokers to learn all the details. Brokers need to stay current on changes in the law to give their clients the best possible advice and service. For the full text of AB 2992, follow this link. Background: Burnett versus NAR class action settlement. AB 2992 is California's response to the settlement of the federal class action lawsuit, Burnett versus National Association of Realtors. In the Burnett case, the plaintiffs were home sellers who alleged that the National Association of Realtors, NAR, colluded with major brokerages to inflate commissions. They claimed that the NAR, through the multiple listing service, MLS, discouraged brokers from showing listings when sellers offer lower commissions to the buyer's agents. The settlement provides, among other things, that the NAR will no longer require a broker advertising a home on the MLS to offer upfront compensation to the buyer's agents. In addition, MLS listings can no longer display broker compensation. Finally, real estate brokers and agents can no longer be required to join the MLS to do business or receive fees. This summary is adapted from the California Legislative Analyst Report on AB 2992. For the full analysis, follow this link. Comments on the NAR case, broker commissions, and AB 2992. The Burnett versus NAR case. The Burnett versus NAR case came from the residential real estate industry and the MLS. Brokers and agents were required to join the MLS, and the MLS effectively forced sellers to pay buyers broker commissions. Real estate commissions should be negotiable, but the MLS made it a requirement. That was the crux of the lawsuit. The Ivy Group only specializes in commercial real estate, so we rarely use the MLS except to conduct research on certain kinds of data. For commercial listings, we use premium commercial real estate platforms such as CoStar, LoopNet, and Crexi. Before the settlement, the MLS required us to join and buy memberships for each of our licensed agents, even though we hardly need the MLS to conduct our business. We might go years without using the MLS, but that's the way the MLS business model operates. It can cost each agent about $800 per year to be an MLS member. Dropping the MLS requirements is a part of the settlement that doesn't get as much attention as other parts of the settlement, but it's important for both brokers and clients. Broker commissions and having the talk. Another important point the NAR lawsuit brings up is to discuss commissions. The old days of standard 5% or 6% are over. Brokers need to talk to their clients and offer them choices. It's like a parent having to talk to the kids about the birds and the bees. Discussions are better when it starts earlier. Some parents dread discussing the birds and the bees, but if they neglect or delay, the kids might get into trouble or hear things from their friends. At the Ivy Group, we are truly transparent about commissions. We disclose how commissions work before signing a listing agreement, so our clients can make the best decisions whether they are sellers or buyers, landlords or tenants. Traditionally, sellers and landlords pay commissions on both sides, but that's just moving numbers around. For example, if the broker represented the seller of a $2 million property, the broker might recommend setting aside 5% of the sales price for commissions to compensate both the seller and buyer brokers. However, if the seller wishes to compensate the seller's broker only, then the listing price could be reduced by 2.5%. The key is to allow the seller to have the option to compensate both seller and buyer brokers, not make it a strict requirement. It's the same with landlords and tenants. Most of the time, the landlord will cover the commission for both landlord and tenant brokers, but that's optional. And the landlord may increase the rental rate to cover commissions. So it really can be a case of moving numbers around. Clients need to be aware of these details. When the Ivy Group makes a listing proposal to represent a client, we lay out all the options. If the clients have specific questions, we can dig deeper into the issues. Most of our clients aren't so focused on commissions. They're really more interested in getting the best possible results and customized experience. News reports may say that the commercial real estate sector is saturated with properties, and the oversupply could drive down demand and broker commissions. But sophisticated clients are willing to pay higher commissions to generate more activities and possibly multiple offers for better results and leverage. It's a question of finding the right property in the right location with the right amenities. Sellers and landlords don't want to let their property sit on the market for too long. Buyers and tenants want to get their business started. You get what you pay for. Changes to the real estate industry. You may be wondering how the NAR lawsuit settlement and AB 2992 affect my business. For the Ivy Group, AB 2992 hasn't brought major changes to the way we operate. We've always been transparent, and we always try to get a written listing agreement before starting to work with a client. Complying with new requirements set by AB 2992 has always been normal business for us, and we stay current on the latest legal changes for everyone's protection. The industry as a whole will have to tighten up a bit. For example, we've seen open house signs that say, "We pay buyers brokers." These marketing practices need a change. There are more nuances as to what brokers are legally permissible to advertise. For example, written agreements with individuals can only be for 90 days without automatic renewals. On the other hand, when a broker represents an entity such as a corporation or an LLC, that restriction doesn't apply. There are also disclosures required for buyer's agents, seller's agents, and dual agents. Brokers need to be aware of all the detailed requirements or risk consequences. We don't expect major changes ahead to AB 2992, although there may be tweaks or small changes over time. The NAR settlement has been approved by the court, so changes to it should not be a concern going forward. Brokers will need to stay informed about future changes and make sure they are using up-to-date legal forms and following other best practices. It is more important than ever for brokers to discuss the details of the representation with their clients. That includes commission, but also finding out exactly the client's wants and needs. Healthy discussion and better relationships will bring better results for everyone, both brokers and clients. When you need to sell, buy, or lease, the Ivy Group is ready to help you reach your goals with more than 100 years of combined experience and expertise in real estate, investment, technology, and engineering. Contact us today with your next real estate needs.